Overdrive on TSN 1050, up on TSN 4 and the TSN app. Mark Rowe in for Brian Hayes all week with two guys who the word buddy gets thrown out a lot. Hey, buddy, there's my buddy. This legit, I'm hanging out with two buddies. Frankie Corrado, who's a staple on this show, and a guy making his TSN 1050 debut.
Yeah.
That's why he's the best dressed guy.
Yeah, I know. Trying to make a good first impression.
You made it, buddy. Jermain Franklin from Sportcentre, longtime Calgary reporter.
Dressed to impress.
Good to be here.
I remember for years watching Jermain reporting in Calgary, and now you're doing Sportcentre.
Yeah, Calgary. We were just talking off air about our stages in life, and I was in your guys' stage in life while I was in Calgary.
The first year I worked in the newsroom, I was in first year university, and I think it was your first year in Calgary.
Yeah.
That was the year that Calgary made it to the Cup final. That was your first year, right?
Very first year.
And I remember you sending out an email to everyone thanking, thanks everyone for, because it was crazy and everyone's working together. And you're like, with having a baby at home and the Flames doing this, it was pretty chaotic. And I'm like, 20 years later, now I'm finally going through it. And you're like, I might go golfing today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the audacity to say, I don't know if I might go golfing. I might not.
In the morning.
You know what needs to happen for guys like us to go golfing? Like, first of all, you have to look like weeks into the schedule. Like, there needs to be this perfect storm of things.
Exactly. And then the wifey has to be, like, okay with it. She can change her mind at any time.
It could happen. You do something else that's crazy. Can I just tell people about this? We need to get this out in the open. So
I want to hear about it myself.
So you do the 1 a.m. Sportcentre.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? That finishes up at what? 2, then maybe 2:15 if you have to repackage some stuff?
Yep.
What do you do after that show?
Yeah, what do you do
after that show?
Yeah, that you shame your co-host.
Well, I go to the gym, boys. I go to the gym.
That is not a 42 jacket, is it?
Are you kidding me? You go to the gym at 2:30 in the morning?
Well, I'm not a morning guy. So once I'm in the wrapper, I am not getting up very early. So I'm like, man. You know what? How am I gonna do this? I'm like, I'm not going to bed till 3, 4 in the morning anyways. I might as well put a nice half hour in.
There's so many
45 minutes.
I'm just like, I just got to make it home. I got to get home somehow. And you're like, might work on tries tonight.
Yeah. What this guy's halfway through Sportcentre. He's trying to put together a first block, a second block. I'm like, keep your eyes open on the 401
And then he's
tonight.
like shaking his protein and stuff. And
it's good, man. Yeah. I recommend it because, first of all, the gym is empty. Like sometimes, actually, there's about 2, 3 guys in there and a couple of ladies in there, and we see each other, and it's like the head nod because we know we're getting ahead.
Yeah, because you guys are sick.
Yeah, we're getting way ahead, and they're just like, I got the gym to myself.
Yeah, you're all factory workers.
Yeah,
right? Once in a while, exactly. Once in a while, I get a spot, no problem.
Okay,
And
what time do you fall asleep afterwards? Like, because
between 4 and 4:30.
Yeah. That's by the way, that's not a sleep. That's a nap. You basically just take a nap and then you start your day.
I am a serial napper too, so I always nap midday too. So I'll sleep for
another thing Mark and I can't do
4 or 5 hours, and then I nap.
I assume as a hockey player that you're a pretty good napper.
I used to be, but I don't know. There were times where you just couldn't get down, so you would lay there and just close your eyes for an hour and a half, and then all right, let's go play the game.
Because there's some guys they don't get their nap in.
Yeah,
those are the worst when you're not sleeping, but you're resting your eyes. That's the worst.
Yeah, I don't nap anymore. I don't sleep much anymore. It's all good. We're here.
It'll be worth it.
Yeah,
but you're a great father.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's very nice of you.
Well, we got a great...
Same to you guys.
I appreciate it. I don't know. We'll see. Jermaine's actually done the job because his kids are...
apparently it's never over.
Well, okay. Your wallet hasn't finished the job.
Exactly.
But,
there's a little residual effect.
They're off to college and university and doing great stuff. But I'm looking forward to today's show. This often gets called the dog days of summer. That's why they usually have me come in. I think I've done this 1 week for the last 4 or 5 years. Because I always remember MLB All-Star Game, so it's a slow week, and the Open Championship. So it's either me and you or Fez Chuck. But anyways, and we have fun. But we just finished a crazy Copa America and Euro Championships. The Olympics are around the corner. Jesse Marsh is going to join us, Team Canada's coach. So got a lot to get into, but that scene in Miami.
I was hoping you would say that. What was going on there, boys? I mean, just to think about the mentality of the people that decided to go to the game without tickets. And the fact that there were thousands of them that said, you know what, I'm going to take my chances.
Yeah, we're showing the video on TSN 4 where it goes, it's like a progression of it where fans are running in. You're like, okay, like this is not great, but and then suddenly you have like hundreds of people trying to get into the same door. Then you have people climbing fences.
Oh my goodness.
And then, to top it all off, you have people going through the HVAC system. Like, first off, you're scouting out the building at that point. Like, that's
yeah.
It's outrageous, and I'm trying to put myself in the position of one of those security guards. Like, let's just say I'm there, I don't know, this is my job, or maybe it's a part-time job I do, and I see these people running at me, climbing fences, going through the HVAC. You know what I'm doing? Just go ahead. Like, what are you supposed to do? Especially if you're not equipped, you're not staffed enough. I don't know, but now, moving forward into World Cup, which is going to be in North America, I think we pretty much know like what to expect now when it comes to these stadiums and the kind of security that they're going to have because it's like, this is no joke.
And you have to be prepared for, and this was the worst. I hope it's the worst.
Well, what I didn't understand when the reports came out and when we were seeing that last night is I'm like, this stadium hosts 70 to 80,000 people on a regular basis. We're talking about the Miami Dolphins. We're talking about the
Super
biggest
Bowl.
concert. We're talking about Super Bowls.
Huge tennis tournaments.
Exactly. So what was the difference here? I didn't quite understand. And the difference, I think, was the fact that it was decided that it was going to be basically survival of the fittest. Obviously, the tickets were sold, but there was a lot more people there than tickets were sold.
And they knew they had the numbers.
And they knew they had the numbers. And that is simply not fair.
How does that gain steam? Is that just fans on Reddit starting a forum saying, like, we're all going to do this? Like, I don't know how that gets orchestrated like that. There's no way everyone was just showing up thinking the same thing at the same time. It had to have been predetermined.
Yeah.
It had to have been. Yeah, like, that's a great point because, and you, was it you, Frankie, you said it was probably pre-scouted, the building?
When you know the HVAC system, like you're like,
definitely
guys, if we get over this wall, all we have to do is then climb on top of these fridges, and then we can get into the HVAC system, and that'll actually lead us into the build. Like, do you have a map of it? Like, this is out of like a movie. Like,
yeah, absolutely. So the Hard Rock Cafe came out with a statement, right? And they basically said that the plan was to let everybody in a half an hour before the game.
Ticketed.
Yeah,
not general flight.
But clearly when that was not going to happen, and then the crowds were pushing, they made the decision to let everybody in so nobody would get hurt.
Half an hour is not enough time.
Crushed,
Half an hour before the game is not enough time because then you have people kind of pooled outside.
Yeah.
And there's a massive amount of people and they're all trying to get in at the same time. Like, I'm trying to think.
And I totally agree with that, by the way.
Even a hockey game, a 7 p.m. start for a hockey game, doors open at 6. And that's a 20,000 person kind of thing. You ease into warm up, you ease into the game. The game even starts at 7:08. So if we're doing an hour before puck drop or an hour and 8 minutes before puck drop in the NHL, why would they do half an hour for something like that where you have a sold out stadium and it's what is it, 70,000, 50,000? Yeah. Like, it's outrageous that was the protocol for that. But I don't think that's not the main issue. The main issue is that this was obviously, or maybe not obviously, I don't know. This is my theory. This was something that was orchestrated by whoever. This was predetermined that they were going to do this.
And at the end of the statement, what hurt the most for me, like just reading it, was the fact that so many people with tickets never got in because the stadium was already full. So for the safety of not having people getting crushed, like you said, a security guard, like, what am I going to stop this bull rush? It ain't going to happen. So people who went there with the plan of getting in without ever purchasing a ticket or having a ticket, their plan worked. And those who came in with their ticket, they're like, it's already full. Sorry, can't happen.
Right. And by the way, Argentina won. And
Messi got hurt.
Messi got hurt. Like, I don't want to say it takes away from their accomplishment, but that's not what people were talking about the next day, was that Argentina wins another major tournament, and now that's 2 back-to-back Copas and a World Cup sandwiched in. Lionel Messi leaves the pitch in tears, and his ankle is, the size of this desk, and it's pretty remarkable to see like what they've done, what he's doing at his age, and the impact that he's had. But
I think he's going to be back, though. I don't think that's the way he leaves the pitch for the last time on the international stage.
Well,
like he would want to leave, and he deserves to leave in the fashion that he chooses. There
was the ankle.
There's a select few in sports that get to kind of leave on their own terms and have the ending be what they want it to be. I believe he is one of those guys, and he will want to. He will want to rectify that. Like, he'll want to leave in a different kind of way. And so that brings him to the World Cup in 2026.
Yeah. Steven Caldwell is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. We'll get his thoughts on if he thinks Messi is done on the international stage or if he's going to play again. And you also have to think with him coming over to play MLS, that part of that is to build up to the World Cup. And then after that, who knows what his future has for us. But, this, like the invasion of what Messi has done for the sport in that country. You see it capped off with winning this tournament, and then, whatever Inter Miami does in the season, but it's all building up towards a World Cup. And a World Cup now, suddenly people are a little more optimistic about Canada, given what they did. And that third place game it felt more like a win than a loss. The final result suggests otherwise.
It hurt, actually. Just
they played so well.
They played so well. They got the lead up 2-1. They're in extra time, but they couldn't lock it down. In Uruguay, they got that game-tying goal, and you kind of knew if it was going to penalties. You didn't know, but you kind of knew.
Well, they won one
Uruguay
in penalties.
Exactly.
How many? If it's a flip of the coin, odds tell you that you might not win this one.
It is a shame that they lose that game because they score some goals, which they weren't able to do. They have a lead. There's a bad defensive breakdown late in the game. But, if I can relate this back to international hockey, there's a few countries that play, and it just feels like they're happy to be in the fight. And it's almost like their brain can't switch from happy to be in the fight to, wait a second, we're good. Yeah. We can actually win this fight now. And I feel like that's where Canada might be at in terms of soccer right now, where they have skilled players. They have players that can make a difference. They're not converting on their chances. There's some defensive kind of missteps that happen. And at the end of the day, they found a way to lose. But the talent is there. The program has come such a long way. Now I think it's almost a mental thing where within that program, they have to convince themselves that, like, we can get to the dance and we can actually make it happen once we're there. It's not just, it's not just enough to get there anymore. So that's where there needs to be a little bit of a mindset shift with them.
Well, and that was so much of the narrative at the World Cup that, everyone was so proud that Canada played with Belgium. And you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, we probably should have won that game, or they should have won that game. The thought process, as Frankie points out, needs to change. That you have to believe that you won, and you started to see that in this tournament. Yeah, where they believed that they could beat Peru. They believed that they could beat Chile. No, they played to a draw, and obviously Venezuela was the big win of the tournament. But the fact that they were as angry as they were that they lost to Argentina, like. Take a step back, like number one team in the world, World Cup champions, that says something that you're coming away going, because normally you'd be like, it was cool to be on the pitch with Messi, and it was cool. And really, like, it wasn't that long ago. That's like, this is really good just to be on the field with such good quality. And that's still true. And that was the beauty of playing a third place game, that it was just another quality match, but you're in these matches now to win. And
absolutely.
They'll have a great opportunity because the World Cup is expanded, because they'll be in that top pod as a host team to get out of their group and actually go to the knockout stage of the World Cup, which is going to be, it's going to be a scene. Like, it's 2 years away, but like, there's already a lot of excitement.
And the talent is there. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you can actually turn this over now because there's going to be talent year after year. You have young players kind of taking the next step. So it's good. And you know what else is good? It's not just the Davies show. There were other players that kind of showed up and had their moment, like Schaffelberg, and so that's encouraging as well. That it's not just hinging on one player's individual success for the program to move forward.
That's funny that you bring that up, Frankie, because I almost feel like I wanted to see more Davies involved or featured more in the games. I noticed Davies a little bit, but like you said, Schaffelberg I saw a lot of. Yep. Jonathan David saw a lot of. Ishmael Kone.
That's right.
Right? Huge. Even Alistair Johnson. Like, these guys, those were the names you saw on a regular basis or on each and every game. They seem to be heavily involved. They seem to be heavily featured. I can't say the same about Davies, and I wonder if that is just Davies adjusting to the new system of Marsh, or is it the fact that that's what they want right now? But I would love to see Davies featured a little bit more.
I think that's the question asked Jesse Marsh when he joins us, that he was asking Alphonso to do things that he wasn't necessarily doing at the World Cup. And he had to be the responsible guy who is, the term we use in hockey, a 200-foot player, right? He had to be that on the pitch. And so did he come away thinking, this is my biggest star, there's still more there that I wish I got out of? Or he did what I asked him to do, and it takes a lot to kind of, suck up your own ego and to not be the goal scorer, not be the star, not the guy that scores the goal against Panama or Croatia at the World Cup. And you're right, like the breakout stars. Yeah. Isabel Kone, I think it's, especially those last two matches, but a lot of Canadians fell in love with Schaffelberg. A lot of Canadians, Steven and Kevin did like their all Copa team. Alistair Johnston was the one Canadian that made their all Copa team. So that's, and before the tournament, you would have thought it's probably going to be Davies if anyone gets on it from Canada. It
also is encouraging though, if you take a look at Alphonso Davies, if he were to go off and if he were to kind of take his game to the next level, think about what that does to this team, because you had all the contributions from all those other players. So if anything, it has to be looked at a very, very successful. The fact that they're playing in that third place game, they play Argentina, they have the showing that they have. Now you have to carry that momentum into World Cup, and everyone who showed up and played well at Copa America continue to play well. And if Alphonso Davies finds even another level, that's great for the team, and that gives them a little bit of a boost moving forward.
I got one more question for you boys, big picture wise, and I'm looking at you, Frankie, because obviously you played pro sports. But is this possibly the best scenario for Canada, the fact that they did not win third place or they did not win the bronze medal? Because is there any possible way that if Canada won, they would be like, whew, that's like the miracle on ice. We got away with one. All right. And then they relax? Or the fact that they were so close, but they did give up a late goal. They lost in penalties. Does it leave nails? Like, are they spitting nails just thinking, man, what is next? And I'll never, well, I probably will forget, but what Eustachio said after the game, post game, saying that the nation needs more out of the feeder system so they can continue to be pushed because depth was an issue compared to the top teams. Like that was eye-opening. And that's pretty special if that's the attitude that Team Canada has.
I think there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it like the way you said, where you don't finish third and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And now every time this team gets together, they have a meeting, they have a practice session, they have a friendly game. There's a little reminder there about what was on the table, what we missed, what we could have done. Or if they were able to finish and in third and win that game, then the conversation within the group can become, we have set a new standard now here. We don't finish fifth. We don't finish. We strive for this, and this is our standard, and we always adhere to that. So, regardless of what happened there, I think you're going to get to your message. It just depends which avenue you're going to take to get there. But the big takeaway is it's very optimistic for the program. There's a lot of good stories and talent that have kind of prevailed. And now you have a new standard within that program as far as what's acceptable, what you're pushing for, and who you can play with and who you can actually beat, which is something different than, we've seen throughout the, I don't know how many decades of the Canadian soccer program.
Yeah. Well, and it goes to what was Jesse Marsh's message to the team afterwards, where they're huddled and he's passionately telling them we hung there with France and we were better than Uruguay tonight and we did all these things. And I think it's important because the nature of the national team program, outside of a couple of friendlies this fall, is you're not around each other very often. This is not the Maple Leafs who hang out for 8-9 months a year. You play a tournament and then you go off to your club and you come back for a couple of friendlies and you go back. So how you leave this tournament is so important. And I to answer your question, I think I lean towards I wish they won the third place game, only because it's that mentality of, you're going to come away going, we hung with them, but hanging with them doesn't get you the ultimate prize. Like, you beat them, you build off of that. We're not obviously at Argentina's level, who is very few teams can hang with them. Yep. But if, and again, it's a third place game. You can debate, the motive that Canada has compared to a team like Uruguay that's in the tournament to win it all. But, you beat a program like that, that's something to hang your hat on. You carry on for a few years.
And you know what? It was a great sports weekend. And I think another athlete who would be thinking that, where, I beat, basically the best in my sport, and I can do that basically as much as I want to now, is Carlos Alcaraz.
Oh, wow.
Good weekend for Spain.
Great weekend for Spain.
Did you see his speech after he won the semi?
My job's done.
Oh, is that what he said?
It's like, my job's done. Let's go with the football guys.
Right. And now I wonder with that, Djokovic, obviously the knee wasn't at 100%, but is that the changing of the guard, or is that just Djokovic, not having 100% health in that moment? And he's not getting any younger, so it's not going to get easier for him, but he always seems to amaze us, and he always finds ways to win. And I don't know, Alcaraz was able to do things that he wasn't normally able to do against Djokovic in that match.
I think it's huge because the statement that Alcaraz made last year was huge. It's the biggest thing that he had done in his young career. He was winning on that surface at that tournament against arguably, right there with Federer, the best grass court player that we maybe have ever seen. Maybe throw Pete Sampras as well. And then to back it up and win in dominant fashion, to leave no question, no stone, removed from the equation here. I think that was huge, and that Novak Djokovic afterwards said, "There's nothing that I could have done that would have changed the result.
No,
it was better." And I can't tell you last time Novak Djokovic said that. I'm sure maybe early in his career he did.
Yeah.
Certainly not now. Certainly not as the standard in the sport with a bunch of young guys. Alcaraz is the new standard.
Absolutely. And okay, you watch a tennis match, you watch all kinds, right? But big matches like that, how much stock do you put into the first game? Usually not that much. But that first game of the first set was outrageous.
Went 20 minutes.
It was like, was it 12 minutes or 20 minutes? It was something ridiculous. And, it was advantage and deuce. And it's like, this Alcaraz basically, I think, let him know early on, I'm going to get right into the mud with you. You think you're going to wear me down? No way. I'm going right there with you step for step. And that lasted the whole way. And you texted me over the course of that match. You're like, Alcaraz is punishing Djokovic, and that is not an easy thing to do.
Right. Yeah. There are guys who have beaten Djokovic. Obviously, he doesn't have a perfect record, but the term punishing, because Djokovic does that to everyone. Ask Milos Raonic, who I forget what the number is for losses, but the number for wins is 0. And he has one of the best serves that we've ever seen, and Djokovic would return it at his feet. And he'd be like, and he's tall and lanky, and he'd fall over himself. And, and in those rallies, you just, you're just like, no mas, I'm done.
Right.
Yeah. The scary thing about, for me, about Alcaraz is the fact that he is still so young. He's 21, but he has levels to his game. And when he turns it up, it looks like right now he may be
that's what the greats
unbeatable.
Do.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because you'll scout out, especially think if you're a Canadian tennis fan and you're watching, you're like, okay, whoever it is, say Felix is going on a run, you're like, we might have to play Djokovic in the quarters. Well, he didn't look great in the second round. He lost a set to this guy. Maybe we got him. The bigger the stakes, the
better they get.
And Federer did that, Rafa did that, and Serena did that, and the greats do that. And Alcaraz is doing that.
I'm trying to remember who Alcaraz was playing. I think it was in the quarters, and he dropped a set, and it was like,
he was down 2-1 to Tiafoe at Wimbledon.
Yes, it was Tiafoe. It was Tiafoe,
and he looked shaky, but it was like,
and I'm like, oh, he's beatable. And he came back, he beat Tiafoe, but then you see what he does against the Joker.
And
in
Djokovic
the Wimbledon
has done
final,
that.
And it's what is going on?
You know what's scary now for Alcaraz? Djokovic had to win in an era where there was Federer and Rafa and Andy Murray. Who's going to stop Alcaraz now for the next however many years once he kind of takes the torch from Djokovic?
The hope is Sinner.
Like,
Right.
Sinners,
like that's the rivalry, and he won an Australian Open, so he's got one major, but he's number one in the world, and yet he's looking up to Alcaraz at the moment. And again, like I said, he's the standard, and I think Sinner's right there. It's just there's and it can happen in these majors, but he wasn't 100% in his match, against Medvedev, and that's an opponent that you need to be 100%. So it's it'll be really interesting to see how close they are in like 5 or 6 years, because those are the two guys leading the way. But we'll get into more tennis with Mike McIntyre. He's going to join us at 5:40 from Match Point Canada. Carter Hutton's going to kick off the 5 o'clock hour. We'll get into some hockey. Again, Jesse Marsh, the Canadian men's national team coach, is going to join us at 6:05. But coming up, one of the great guys in our business, we love him, Steven Caldwell. Overdrive continuing on TSN 1050 and up on TSN 4. Overdrive continuing. Mark Rowan for Brian Hayes alongside Jermain Franklin, Frankie Corrado, and a guy who just wanted to come back into the studio for one more day.
Are you crazy?
Steven Caldwell.
I am crazy, Frankie. I am.
So I've got the Copa Final on the TV at home. We got 2 young kids. We're trying to put them to bed.
Right.
I see what's going on. And I say to my wife, like, oh, this is terrible. And she looks up and goes, yeah, people are going to get hurt. I was like, yeah, but no, our crew in the studio. And she's like, what? I was like, these guys have been working nonstop. So, Stevie, you were doing Euros, Copas, and calling some MLS games. We did one game.
Yeah.
Remember the MLS game that had an hour and 40-minute delay.
Oh, God.
And you and Luke, who had a whole day of Euros, we didn't get out of there till 12:30. It was no big deal for me, but you had to come back the next day.
Yeah.
And then finally, your last day, where you're probably circling 10 o'clock at night, we're out of here. Maybe we're having a drink or two, whatever.
Yeah.
And this over an hour like that, I know all things considered, there's more important things than you having to stay later, but that was the scene, and that was just the cherry on the top of what this whole Sunday was like for you.
Pretty crazy, yeah, it was. We were looking forward to it being over. The games, of course.
A good game to finish.
We
but
were excited about the games, but we're thinking, we'll be done by 10:30, maybe a couple of hits here and there. We'll have a couple of beers with the crew, and we'll enjoy the night. And then when we saw the delay, we couldn't believe it. And there was a point where we were, should we fill, should we throw to someone else? And we decided we wanted to keep the audience, so we did I think it was like a 28-minute fill on warm-ups or whatever they were doing.
A certain guy named Owen just told you to keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking. Keep going. You'll be fine. It's not like you've worked so much in the last month.
Yeah.
But we got in there and we love it. So we sort of felt through the delay and went into the game, and it was still an amazing experience.
We're seeing the scenes here. Like, this is wild.
What do you think? What do you make of all this? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, isn't it, Frankie? When you see that kind of stuff going on at such a great final, a great event like Copa America, to see fans acting like that, to see that allowed, to see that get through security was really disappointing, because it takes the shine off what's been a brilliant tournament. A tournament that's really just been introduced to Canada, to a lot of Canadians that are casual soccer fans, and they've realised that this tournament's great to watch. It's exciting. The football's fast. There's a lot going on. It's not just about the football. You'll see, refereeing decisions.
There's a lot
That's
going on.
That's a very politically correct way of describing everything there.
Yeah, they don't exactly follow the VAR rules as strictly as you might see in the Euros, but that's why we love it. And then, just goes a little bit too far with that kind of stuff. You never want to see that at a football game. Thank God nobody got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, what was going through, when you guys were going through it, of course, filling time, and you see what's going on, and I was watching, of course, and Luke's like, oh, it turns out it's not going to be 8:15, it's going to be 8:30, and then it's going to be 8:45, and now it's going to be 9:15. Did you guys have a sense of what was going on and why? Did you have any idea why it was the scene was so chaotic and how tough it was? Yeah,
we had an idea, Jermaine. We obviously knew that fans had breached the gate or whatever, and they had got in the stadium. And then we heard there's going to be a delay. The players came off the field. They're going to get the fans out the stadium and bring them back in. And so as soon as we heard that, the first delay was 8 p.m. to 8:30. We said, no way, there's never an 8:30 kickoff. And we thought that was just going to be impossible to actually pull the fans out the stadium and then let everyone in with a ticket back in. And so I think in the end, and I don't want to speculate, I don't want to say any rumours that, but ultimately I think people never got into the stadium that actually bought a ticket to go to the game because they couldn't work out the whole mess. People were in the stadium that never had a ticket, that had breached, and people that had paid for a ticket never got in there. So a shame to end like that, especially when we had the two best teams in Argentina and Colombia in the final, and we got a good game actually in the end, but we were expecting such a great game and everyone was excited for it, and to see it kind of go like that in an hour 15, an hour 20 minutes, but delayed kickoff was disappointing.
Yeah, I guess a lot to learn from as we look forward to the World Cup and what they can do to try to avoid something like this. But unfortunately, we're not talking about Argentina winning this, and that's now back-to-back Copas, and they got a World Cup in between that, and you have Lionel Messi, who leaves the pitch in tears because of his ankle injury, but he still wins. And of course, the question that you've been asked now is, this is the last we'll see of Messi representing Argentina. What do you think? I
don't think it is. I was mystified with the tears, actually, because it's not like Messi to be so emotional in a game. Which I think got everyone's head spinning. Is it his last game? I had never even contemplated that before the kick-off, that he would retire from international football. And when I saw that, I was like, I thought, is the injury serious? Doesn't seem to be that serious. He was walking around at the end. He would have been at the hospital if there was a fracture or anything like that, or maybe a suspected fracture. So it's hard to speculate, but I just hope not. I still think he's got so much to give. I think he can get to 2026, and I think a major reason for coming to North America was to try and help get him there, obviously to prepare for a US, Canada and Mexico World Cup. And I think once he settles down and he sees the ankle injuries maybe less than he suspected, that he'll realise that with this team, back-to-back Copas, World Cup winners, they can go for an unprecedented 4th trophy in 2 years' time. And you know what? They're the favourites to probably get there. So why would he leave that? I think he'll keep going.
So now that you've had, not that much time, but maybe a little bit of time to digest Canada's kind of journey here the last little while, maybe some general thoughts on where Canada's come from and where they're going, and what you thought of their performance overall in the tournament.
I thought their performance was outstanding. To play at that level as well as they did was beyond anyone's wildest expectations. I actually asked Jesse Marsh sort of that very question yesterday, Frankie, and I said, what was your expectations coming into the first friendly matches in Europe? And he said, semi-finals, of course, laughing because there was no way that even Jesse expected that Canada could get to semi-final. But it was more than just getting there. It was the way that they got there, the performances, the creation of chances, the positivity of the football, the emergence of some young talent that I think is significant. If Canada are going to do well in 2026, they're going to have 4, 5, 6 people emerge, and I'm going on maybe the 10, 12 names that are already there that we would sort of see as being important members of that squad. Others have to emerge if Canada are going to be successful. So all that being said, and the way they played in that third place game was phenomenal. They played Uruguay off the park, the 14th best team in the world. They've got superstars in every area of the field. So to play so well against Uruguay, obviously the last stage everyone knows is to finish the chances and be clinical and sort of have a bit more swagger and a bit more confidence when they get in the positions. But they're right there, and they just got to build on this and make sure that the next 2 years mean something, and games can be important in terms of preparation for a home World Cup.
Steven Caldwell joining us on Overdrive, and use the depth, which is what Canada needs, and we saw it here, which is why they were successful, but they need a lot more of it. Now, the guy who gave us all hope a few years ago was Alphonso Davies, a teenager who tore up MLS, went to Bayern Munich. We've never seen something like that before. And then people came away from this tournament going, why didn't we get more from Davies? Because why wasn't he scoring the goal that we saw against Panama or the goal we saw against Croatia? Is it simply the role that Jesse Marsh is asking him to play, or by his standards, was it somewhat of a disappointing tournament?
I would say so. I think Alphonso put such high expectations on himself, and he knows he took the captain's armband for the tournament. He knows that he has to be better. He has to be more effective, I would say. I don't think he had a terrible tournament by any stretch of the imagination, but we expect Alphonso to provide big moments in a red shirt of Canada. And it's often too much to put on his shoulders, I feel, that expectation. And again, maybe so. But I think left back's his best position. I've got to be clear on that. Kevin Coban and I argue. Kevin thinks he's better in the left wing. I think he's better at left back. That's where he plays for club. He's devastating on the switch as the ball comes across and he comes onto things with his pace and athleticism, unstoppable. And maybe Canada have to figure out a way, sort of bringing him into play like Bayern would,
Right. Because he can clean up some mistakes with that speed, right?
Yes.
And we saw that. And it's maybe not what comes up on the score sheet, but from a coaching perspective, you love the fact that you can utilize that, right?
Yeah, you got to utilise that, and we have to. Canada have to try and utilise that more. They have to make sure that Alphonso can be the best version of himself. We could say it's similar for Jonathan David. I know he got 2 goals, but he should have had more. We're disappointed a little bit with his performance. Kyle Larin, also, we could say a little bit disappointed. And I think sometimes it's unfair to heap it all on the boys that are the experienced members, but unfortunately, that's what it's been like. That's what it's like. That's what it's like for any smaller nation. When the stars come back and play for their country, we expect a lot. And I think for Alphonso, he's got to reflect on this and figure out, alongside Jesse Marsh, the coaching staff, how they can best utilise him on the left flank, whether it's higher or lower, Jermaine.
Yeah, that's well, what you just said, that was my question, and I got 2 in 1, basically. With Alphonso Davies, in terms of making sure they utilize him in the best way, is that all about tactics in that sense and adjustments to make sure that they utilize him and feature him in the best way possible? And the other question in the middle of that is, what did we learn about Canada and the way that they prepared for this tournament? We saw them play quality opponents in Europe. How much of a difference did that make, and how do they continue that moving forward? Or is that something they have to continue to get better?
They do. They have to continue it. The organisation, Canada Soccer, has to give this team the games that they need, the games that they deserve to progress and get better. I would say that the expectations of the games that they might play has probably increased, because Canada Soccer have probably realised that this team needs more challenges of the level that they faced in the last 5-6 weeks. Netherlands were very competitive at the Euros, as were France. Top teams, Argentina twice, Uruguay, even Venezuela, Peru and Chile. Such difficult games and experiences. Can they play a top African team? Can they play Japan in a friendly not too long ago, but Asian team. We've got to see different areas of the world. We've got to make sure that we get an experience. The Canadians get that experience of playing against different players in different environments, away games, even home games where there's 30,000 at BMO Field or they pack out BC Place. They've got to experience these different environments so they're prepared for that moment. And so I think that is on Canada Soccer to find A games for the players. That is on, I guess, Jesse Marsh in some ways to make sure that he gets his guys in the best physical condition and prepared to go out there and obviously take things forward, because if they rest on this and they don't progress the way that we hope after such an amazing experience, then it'll be a big disappointment.
Our soccer analyst Steven Caldwell joining us. You brought up the Euros. As a Scotsman, did you lose any sleep in the fact that it is not in fact coming home?
It's not even theirs to take home. I'm sick of hearing this coming home. Yeah, I was pretty happy, I have to say. I'd be lying.
Poor Luke.
Luke was gutted, but I think the rest of us were pretty happy. I don't know about Atiba. He was sitting on the fence. But I mean, they didn't play. I am really a neutral guy. I love football so much that when I'm watching a game, whatever team's playing the best, I tend to gravitate towards them. And There's no way anybody can say England played the best in that final. Spain were the better team. England played in little periods like they have done the whole tournament. And it got me frustrated that English fans must have been throwing things at the TV, because when they play and they go on the front foot, they've got the best players. But we saw it too few and far between. We saw them sit back, we saw them have little periods, score a goal, play well, and then sit back. And I just don't understand why they had that mentality. This is at the end there, the little melee.
What a sequence.
Yeah, it was crazy. But this was after they conceded the second goal. Then they go in the attack and they have a go, and you're like, why didn't they do that with 20 minutes to go?
It takes conceding a goal to play like that.
And it was like that the whole tournament, and they were seconds away from going out against Slovakia, and Bellingham scored the amazing overhead kick. It was just a tournament of what ifs and nearlies, and I think ultimately, this team might in some ways with this staff be coming to the end of its cycle, and they need some freshness coming in before Canada, Mexico and US 26.
Could you see this being the start of another nice little run for Spain? Like from 2008 to 2012, basically, it was dominant for them. It was, it hasn't been quite as dominant. Could this be the start of something for them?
Absolutely. Yeah. They look at the ages. Jamal just turned
He's only getting better, which is scary.
I think somebody said something. I think it was Ali McCoy's back in British TV. He's going to be, I'm going to get it wrong, but he basically said what age he's going to be at 2038, and it was like, what? He's still going to be more than capable of playing in that. He's got so many World Cups, so many Euros, so many years to come. Outstanding talent. Nico Williams, Danny Olmo's pretty young. Like, you look at this team and they're very capable of being really strong at 2026, then the next Euros. It really could be. Once you win one, it's easier to go on, isn't it, to get that next one and to have the confidence. So Spain will be around. The type of football they played in this tournament was the best that we saw. It was very attacking. It was very direct at times. It could be intricate at other times. They mixed it up, and they fully deserved the trophy.
Awesome to see you, buddy. We were all joking, like, we hope that you don't think that Hayes, O-Dog, and Noodles are in.
That's what we thought.
If it was 8 guys, I wouldn't have.
I didn't know the B squad was in.
We had to tell Doogie, like, Doogie, did you tell him, like, the regulars aren't here today?
Yeah.
No, guys, thanks for having me.
This isn't the starting 11.
Thanks, guys.
Great work.
Awesome.
No.
It's always awesome seeing you.
Yeah, all of you guys,
amazing.
in front of the camera, behind the camera, do such a great job. So it was tip of the cap to you guys, and looking forward to your work, both with MLS, but moving now forward to the World Cup.
Thanks, guys.
Coming around the corner.
I think the game has grown in the nation in this last month, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about it.
I mean, families, grannies, mums watching the game. That's when you know that everybody's glued to the telly, so we love it. Hopefully it'll keep continuing.
Don't bring my Oma into it, because she's not happy about that call against Dumfries in the set. Anyways, we're run out of time. I'm sorry, Oma, but thanks, buddy. Good to see
guys.
you.
Pleasure.
There you have it. Steven Caldwell coming up. Carter Hutton's going to join us to kick off the 5 o'clock hour, including also Jesse Marsh is going to join us in the 6 o'clock hour. We'll get his thoughts on Canada's appearance at the Copa America. That and much more. Overdrive on TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Mark Rowe alongside Frankie Corrado and Jermain Franklin. I have been told by our producer Doogie that I have to pick the home run derby winner by the end of the show, which is, I guess that's part of the job of filling in for Hayes. But this is the week. Home run derby, all-star game.
Does it get you excited anymore, the home run derby?
It's funny you use the term again, because as a kid, it was awesome.
I agree.
Right? Yeah.
I couldn't wait for it every year. Couldn't wait for the home run derby. Like, the biggest names were going to be competing. It was like, who's going to get the belt as the home run king? Now, I feel like it's there.
It's still better than the hockey all-star game festivities.
I was just gonna say it's turning into the dunk competition.
It is.
You're gonna have good years. You're gonna have
like Pete Alonso. He's like, I'll do it every year.
I know.
Right?
I'm just.
So he's the favorite, I think, to win it. But it's like, you go back to the '90s, and I know he was enhanced by something, but Mark McGuire at Fenway, jacking balls, like that was cool in the time. I don't know if it's just with age or not. They also have changed the format a lot.
Yeah,
so it's
true.
Not head-to-head anymore.
It's not head-to-head for the first round, and then if you make the semis, I believe that you are. And if you hit a ball, I believe over 420 feet, you get an extra couple outs,
Okay.
bonus outs or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. I could be wrong with all this, but it's
Yeah.
the home run derby. So
Yeah, I mean,
It is what it is.
It's not going anywhere.
I don't know what-
It's, when there's the bigger names, you know, there's a little more juice in it, but we don't get that anymore. And you're right, it does kind of feel like it is like the slam dunk competition.
Yeah.
I don't know.
it was cool when Vladdy won. Or
Yeah.
no, he didn't win, I guess, but he was the star that night.
No, he won.
But he was the star, and then the next year he won.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
those were cool years. as a
Yeah,
Blue
we
Jays.
but I just don't. We don't make enough of big home run hitters, do we? Like the Aaron
Wow.
Judge year where he
Yeah.
had 62. I think we were all following that. We were all very captivated by that. But I don't know. Like if you follow baseball, are you talking about guys that go, this guy hits a jack, then the other guy hits a jack, and it's like you're always kind of comparing and contrasting those guys. I feel like those rivalries, the home run rivalries, don't exist as much in the game anymore.
And why aren't we? I know we don't have a lot of time, but maybe that's a question we answer a little later. Why aren't we bigging up the home run boys?
I think it's just because it's become such a strikeout home run game that maybe it's lost a little bit of its significance, or we just see it more. But you're right. Like beating Roger Maris's record back in the day, 61, was huge. And then maybe because it happened so frequently with McGuire and Sosa and now Judge, that it has a little bit of a dullness to it. But
I'll
anyways,
probably still watch.
yeah, we'll watch.
Call it what it is. We'll watch.
I know I want more home runs out of the Jays lineup. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
We hope that you watch and listen to our next hour, because Carter Hutton is going to kick off the 5 o'clock hour. Overdrive continuing on TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.